Good morning. Alright, we're tearing into the Ram 3500 here. Clearly, we've got the wheels and tires off, and I've got the shocks out, and I've taken the caliper off, and that's where we're at right now, is we're going to take care of that. I made some caliper hangers for us. They're pretty simple. I've got the plan for them. The hook is offset, straight at the bottom, offset at the top. That's so you can face the hook to the hole, run it up sideways, and it just falls in the hole. You can actually do it one-handed while holding the caliper in the other hand. And now I am not going to try to hold the caliper in one hand and get it up on this hook. I'll be right back. Okay, so this mostly is so that you can hang this orientation is so that you can actually just hang it up there. Now you can inspect and play around with it without having to hold it. And if you need to take that out and clean it and grease it and put it back in and all that kind of good stuff, you don't have to worry about it. You can check these, make sure they're not cracked or pitted, and you can see they're mostly fully retracted. So we'll need to exercise those boots and make sure that they're working, depending on how dirty they are once we clean on them. But all of this surface rust needs to be come off and get treated. The hose appears to be in good shape. Got to get some sort of lubricant to stop all the corrosion that's going on. Of course, that's trash, and clearly this is trash. Look at the bump stop. Bump stop's just gone, and it's blown through at some point so hard that it's made a shiny spot there from hitting, it appears, right here, because it's got another scar on the other side. Anyway, somehow somebody really put this suspension through its paces. Anyway, moving on. Clearly I disconnected the wheel speed sensor cable from this hose before I tried to move this caliper off of here. And then by the way, the caliper bolts are 10 millimeters. The caliper support bracket, or the caliper mounting bracket, whatever the Dodge calls it, these two bolts here are 18 millimeter socket. No idea what size they are. The back plate, the shield here is very, very super corroded, but it's still shielding, so I'm not going to mess with it because it appears the hubs were replaced, and they're beautiful. They're nice and smooth. There's no perceptible lateral or axial play, so cool. Now, the wheel speed sensor, I pulled it out. It's nasty, dirty, nasty. So once I pulled it out, I immediately rolled up a custom plug and stuffed it down in there to keep it clean. Now I can pull that plug to the side and brush around it, clean around it, do all the things I want to do, because all of that has to be clean. You can't have grease and crap just leaking out and covering up where there might be a problem. So now next task is I'm going to undo this right here so that I can take the wheel sensor, get it up away, way up away, so I don't damage it, because we're going to be hammering on bolts and stuff like that. I got to get some Hilco lube. Let's go ahead and pre-lube these guys right here. Man, I've never seen bushings that bad. You can see shiny metal and like large missing portions of bushings. I mean, these are bad. Anyway, so we got to get all the trash out of here, and I just got these yesterday, so I'm gonna reuse those B6 4600s, but I did order some new top mounting hardware because the rubber on those are cracked, and if I put them back in here, chances are they're going to stay here until they get wore out. And I'd rather the shock get fully used than me to have to pull them out because my rubber split. So anyway, I'm going to do a few more things and get this stuff done, and then I'll add some more stuff to the list. P.S. This bolt right here, the bolt that holds the wheel sensor in, is actually a socket head cap, and it is a 5mm socket head cap. And you want to be real careful with this gasket right here that goes between, for the wheel speed sensor, because I think it's a metallized one, and I think it would be almost impossible to find a replacement. You'd almost have to make one, or just don't damage it. Be very careful with it. Get it clean, but don't damage it. I'm just genuinely disgusted at everything I see. So get a good look, because this is all gonna change. Man, I need a new wheelhouse cover, or whatever these things are called. I think it's a wheelhouse. Yeah. And of course I've got no material left here to connect to the new bumper that's coming. But man, just the lack of care, the lack of, look, I've scraped all that out of there. And just dripping grease because you are too lazy to replace your seals or your ball joints, or too cheap. Don't even think about cleaning it or nothing. Anyway, so we're starting the cleaning I started at the very beginning. Down here at the end, I cleaned everything that goes inside the hub with just plain 99.9% IPA, isopropyl alcohol. Everything outside got an alcohol treatment all the way up to where I stopped, right up here by that one. And then I started right here holding this in a rag like this, and then I scrubbed it with a toothbrush and Dawn and water all the way up to make sure all the dirt's gone. Dirt's bad. If dirt is bad in our fuel system, why would it be any better anywhere else on the vehicle? And if it's on the vehicle, guess what? It's closer to the fuel system. Just record video. This showed this about to go in the trash. Blown bare. It's garbage. And here's the new links, bushings, and old brackets that I may or may not replace. We shall see. Anyway, on to the next thing. So here we are under the truck, and we're trying to stay in. See this square of shade? We're going to stay in the square of shade and get as much work as we can. All right, so I've hung the caliper and the wheel speed sensor out of the way. They're not up and out of the way like I would like, but right now they're as far away from the spring as possible, where I have jury-rigged the improper tool in there, and we're going to give it a shot later. But first, we're going to go ahead and we're going to try to get this rack off of here and just get it out of the way, because why have that outer tie rod and that tie rod in there when I can have it out of the way while I'm jacking with that spring. So all right, let's see. We got a breaker bar in I believe this is a 21mm on this particular the socket, ball joint, excuse me, for the outer tie rod for the rack and pinion. So 21mm. Let's see what we can do with it. I doubt I'll be able to do anything with it. It's bunged up, so I'm using a 6-point, and I have to use the long one. So let me see what I can do. All right, pulling. Oh my Lord! I pulled at the center, which is a foot. I bet there wasn't 10 foot-pounds on that lock nut. There's only, that's ridiculous. That's crazy. Let's do that again. Look at that. It's nothing. There's nothing there. That's the lock nut holding your steering on. I I'm turning a lock nut with my fingers. So somebody reused a lock nut. You never reuse a lock nut. If you care about your life or the life of anybody who's in your truck, do not reuse lock nuts on, and definitely don't reuse lock nuts on suspension. And frankly, you shouldn't reuse suspension hardware ever. One-time use. I'm gonna crawfish on that last part a little bit. There are a few bolts, like these giant A-arm bolts and the stuff that's used to align. That stuff's intended to be reused, but nylocks, not. Pinch nuts, not. Anything that is critical like that. The upside to a loose nut is it was easy to get off. All right, so now we got to pop that ball joint out of there. And this is my first Dodge, so I don't have any Dodge special tools, but I do have this old OTC set that I bought for my F-150. There's bound to be something in there that we can use for this purpose. All right, this one right here looks like the one that the shop manual says to use, and it appears to be what I would like to use, because I can slide it in from back behind like that. Now the problem is it appears to be quite a bit too short, and it's on the outside. All right, so we can't use that one, but that's the style I want. If I get a chance, if OTC makes a bigger one, I might get it. All right, well, I'm looking at all my other tools. If that one's too short, then that one's definitely too short. That one's definitely too short. This is definitely too short. So that leaves me only with this, which I hate to use because they're so gangly and they're hard to get set up. But if you do get them set up and you get it close enough to center, you can push it. So I'm gonna try to get this rigged up, and then I'll come back and we'll try to crank her down and see. This one's never been used. I gotta go put some grease on it. And that's how it comes off in your hand. It pops loose, pops up. It's actually almost like it was tailor-made. Just make sure that you've got the threads that are going in, pack them full of grease, so that it has the best chance it can. See that right there? Those flat threads? That was sent from the factory. Those didn't get sharpened, those are dull. So they drag going through, and they drag all the grease with it. So I have to pack grease going both ways. So caliper bolts, caliper slide bolts. This is them. I don't think they're factory because they're 12 millimeter, not 10 millimeter like the passenger side, which are clearly OE. These were also put in dry, and apparently were torqued on the Ugga scale, or the Gutentite scale, because my lord, I had to go get this monster here and use everything I had behind a 6-point half-inch to pull off a 12 millimeter. You know, that's ridiculous. You know, and put it on dry. Whew, man. Little Texas summers ain't got nothing to do, nothing on Northwest Louisiana summers. It's pretty hot. It's about 90, and I don't think it's noon yet. I know, in fact, I know it's not noon yet, because I have shadow in front of my truck. All right, so we got the lines, the wheel sensor, the wheel speed sensor line, and the brake line separated. The last connector there on the brake line before you get to its real little reinforcement fuel hose, right back here. And see if I can point to it. Oh, there it is. That one has a leg broken off the bottom, so I'll have to zip tie that one down. In fact, I'll probably zip tie them all down because, frankly, I want them zip tied. I will use their brackets, but I want to zip tie over that opening. I don't want them to be able to be yanked out either. The mechanic who put that nut right there on that ball joint was negligent, and he is very, very lucky that someone did not die. That was finger tight. I mean, maybe a few foot-pounds of torque, maybe, and then, but I should not be able to do that. That should be either a pinch nut or a brand new nylock, either way. Clearly, the ball joint has been off before for some reason. So the ball joint popped loose reasonably easy. That tool is awesome. I love OTC tools. So that's loose. Now we got to get that one loose and that one loose, and I've pre-oiled them. But other than that, but before I can take that one loose, well, I could take them loose, but I can't take them out. Can't pull the rack off because I need to get the supply and return lines off the top of that. And then of course I also need to disconnect the steering shaft from the input, and I believe it's a little pinch bolt right there. We'll see.